Hey everyone, welcome back to English Podcast for You, your cozy little corner to learn easy, natural English through real, everyday human conversations. I'm Leo.
And I'm Lily. We are so incredibly happy to have you sitting here with us today. Whether you're commuting to work, doing some chores, or just relaxing with a nice cup of coffee, thank you for spending part of your day with us. It honestly means the world to us.
It really does. I was reading through the comments on our last video, Lily, and one listener wrote, "I feel like I'm sitting in a cafe with two close friends while my English just naturally gets better." And honestly, that brought a massive smile to my face, because that is exactly why we do this.
That is beautiful. And to everyone listening right now, remember that just by tuning in, your English is growing. You're absorbing the rhythm, the pauses, and the way real emotions connect to words. Don't worry about understanding every single vocabulary word perfectly. Just stay with us and let the language sink in.
Speaking of real-life rhythm, Lily, why did you look so incredibly stressed when you walked into the studio today? Are you okay?
Oh, goodness, Leo, don't ask. Let's just say I had a big project meeting yesterday afternoon, and oh my word, it was a bit of a disaster.
A disaster? You? But you love talking. What happened?
Well, it's that classic office trap. I had this great idea in my head, like a genuinely solid plan for our new marketing strategy. But when the manager looked at me and said, "Lily, what are your thoughts?" my brain completely froze. I started rambling, using 50 words when 5 would have done, and I could literally see my colleagues zoning out on the Zoom screen.
The dreaded verbal loop. We've all been there. You start explaining an idea, you lose your way in the middle of the sentence, and then you just keep talking, hoping that eventually your main point will magically appear.
Exactly. I wanted the ground to swallow me up. And that's actually why I wanted to talk about this today. Workplace communication is just so tough. Expressing your ideas clearly in office meetings is scary enough in your native language, but doing it in English, it takes a totally different level of confidence.
It really does. People feel like they're being judged on every syllable. We want to sound incredibly smart and perfect, right?
Yes, totally.
But the truth is, a good meeting isn't a stage play where you perform. It's a collaboration. When you view it as a collaboration, where everyone is just trying to solve a puzzle together, the pressure drops. You don't need to give a flawless speech. You just need to contribute your piece of the puzzle.
Oh, I love that image, a puzzle. Because if I'm just offering a piece, it's okay if it's a bit rough around the edges. Someone else on the team can help me shape it.
Exactly. But to do that smoothly, you have to be able to articulate what's in your head. That word articulate is something we use a lot. When you articulate an idea, it just means you express it clearly and fluently so people actually understand the depth of it.
Right. Like, it's not about using big, fancy words. It's about making sure your words actually match your thoughts. Like, for example, you could say, "She was able to articulate the problem perfectly."
Exactly. But ironically, the biggest enemy of articulating an idea clearly is trying to say too much at once.
Okay, you don't have to attack me personally, Leo. I already told you I rambled yesterday.
No, I do too. We all do. When we are nervous, we over-explain because we think if we keep talking, it will make our argument stronger. But actually, it does the opposite. It buries the gold under a mountain of dirt.
Wow, look at you being a poet today. But you're so right. The real trick to professional communication is learning how to get your point across efficiently.
Yes, to get your point across simply means to make people successfully understand exactly what you mean. If you don't get your point across, the meeting ends and people leave confused asking, "Wait, what did Lively actually want us to do?"
Which might have happened yesterday. Someone literally messaged me afterward asking for clarification. It was so humbling.
Hey, don't be too hard on yourself. It happens to the best of us. But here's a tiny practical trick I use to get my point across whenever I have to pitch an idea in a meeting.
Oh, tell me. I'm taking mental notes right now.
It's a simple structure. Before you speak, pause for literally 2 seconds. Identify the one sentence you want people to remember. State that first, like a news headline. Then give 1 or 2 sentences of details, and then just stop talking.
Huh. So instead of saying, well, I was looking at the data, and maybe if we have time next month, we could try changing the layout because some users said it's confusing.
Right. Instead of that, you say, our users are finding the current layout confusing, so I propose we update it next month. Here is why.
Wow, that sounds so much more professional. It's clean, it's direct, and it immediately gets your point across. It turns a messy opinion into a confident pitch.
Exactly. And notice how you use the word pitch there. In the corporate world, a pitch isn't just for salespeople trying to sell a product. Anytime you put an idea forward for approval in a meeting, you are making a pitch. You're pitching your perspective to the team.
Right, but a pitch shouldn't feel like an aggressive sales commercial either, right? Because like you said earlier, a meeting is a collaboration.
Absolutely. True collaboration means you leave room for other people to speak. Some of the most articulate people in the office are actually the ones who speak the least, but when they do speak, they hit the nail on the head because they've been listening intently.
So you're saying I need to look back on my talking and listen more?
I would never say that to you, Lily. But jokes aside, think about it. If you listen carefully to what your colleagues are saying, you can connect your pitch directly to their needs. That makes your communication inherently more valuable to the team.
That makes total sense. It shifts the focus from, look at me, look how smart I am, to how can we move this project forward together?
Beautifully put. And when the collaboration is flowing well and everyone has shared their pieces of the puzzle, someone inevitably needs to take charge and wrap up the conversation so everyone can get back to their actual work.
Ah, the wrap-up, the most satisfying part of any meeting, honestly.
Especially if it's a Friday afternoon. If you wrap up a meeting well, you summarize the main decisions and next steps clearly so no time is wasted.
Oh, absolutely. Looking at the time, we should probably wrap up this specific part of our chat too, because I really want us to go over these words a bit more closely for our listeners.
Good idea. Let's do a quick deep dive into the 5 words we've been tossing around so everyone listening can really see how they work in context. Let's start with articulate.
Yes, articulate. I love this word because it sounds so elegant, but it's actually very practical. Like we said, it means to express your thoughts or feelings clearly in words. I think a lot of English learners think being articulate means knowing every single massive vocabulary word in the dictionary.
Right, like they need to sound like a textbook or a philosophy professor.
Exactly. But it's actually the opposite. Being articulate is about simplicity. It's about choosing the right, clear words so the other person doesn't have to guess your meaning. Like in my disaster meeting yesterday, if I had been articulate, I would have just said, our current strategy is too slow, we need a faster option. Boom. Simple.
That's a perfect example. And you can use it as a verb or an adjective, like she is an articulate speaker, or he struggled to articulate his vision during the presentation. It's a huge compliment in the workplace if someone tells you, wow, you really articulated that well.
Oh, absolutely. If a manager told me that, I'd be floating on a cloud for the rest of the week. But instead, I got a message asking for clarification. Moving on before I cry, what's our second phrase?
The second one is get your point across. This one is a phrasal verb, and we use it constantly. It's all about the result of your communication. Did the other person actually understand the core message you wanted to deliver?
Right. It's like sending a package in the mail. If the package arrives safely at the house, you got it across. If you're talking and talking, but the other person looks completely confused, you are not getting your point across.
Exactly. The package is lost in transit. And a good way to use this in a sentence at work is, I tried to explain the budget cuts, but I don't think I got my point across very well. Or, don't worry about perfect grammar, just focus on getting your point across. That's a great piece of advice for anyone learning English, honestly.
That is such an important reminder, Leo, truly. In a fast-paced office meeting, your colleagues don't care if you accidentally use the wrong preposition. They just want to understand your idea. They want you to get your point across so the team can make a decision.
Exactly. It's all about efficiency, which ties perfectly into our third word, pitch.
Oh, I use this one all the time now, but it used to terrify me because when you hear pitch, you think of Shark Tank or entrepreneurs standing in front of millionaires trying to get funding for their startup. It feels so high stakes.
Right, with dramatic music playing in the background. But in everyday office life, a pitch is much smaller and way more common. If you suggest a new software for the team to use, you're pitching an idea. If you propose changing the weekly meeting from Monday to Thursday, that's a pitch.
Huh. So a pitch is basically just presenting an idea or a plan to someone, hoping they will agree with it or approve it. Like, I'm going to pitch a new schedule to my boss today. Or, her pitch for the marketing campaign was brilliant.
Spot on. It's just a professional way of saying presenting a proposal. And the best way to make a good pitch is to make sure it's not just a solo performance, which brings us to our fourth word, collaboration.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Classic office cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. Collaboration is the act of working together with one or more people to create or achieve something. In the modern workplace, almost everything is a collaboration. No one works in a vacuum anymore.
And that's why communication is so critical. If you can't articulate your thoughts or if you can't get your point across, the collaboration breaks down. It's like a gear in a machine getting stuck. For example, you could say, the success of this project depends on close collaboration between the design and tech teams.
Yes, or we are working in collaboration with a new agency. It just sounds so much more professional than saying we are working together. It shows you value the collective effort.
Definitely. It sounds very mature and corporate. And then, once the collaboration is done and everyone has given their inputs, you have to do the final step, which is our fifth phrase, wrap up.
My absolute favorite part of any meeting. To wrap up means to finish or conclude something. Think of it like wrapping a present. You've done all the work of choosing the gift. Now you put the paper around it and tie a neat little bow on top to finish it.
Oh, that is a great mental image, wrapping a present. So when you wrap up a meeting, you're tying a bow on the conversation. You're saying, okay, we've made our decisions. Let's finish this up.
Exactly. In a meeting, you'll often hear a manager say, let's wrap things up for today, or to wrap up, here are the action items for next week. It's a signal to everyone that the discussion is over and it's time to take action.
It's a beautiful phrase. It prevents meetings from dragging on forever and ever, which we all know is the worst thing that can happen in an office.
Oh, definitely. There is nothing worse than a meeting that should have been an email dragging on past 5 p.m. because nobody knows how to wrap it up.
Stop. You're giving me corporate nightmares, Leo. But honestly, looking at these 5 words, articulate, get your point across, pitch, collaboration, and wrap up, they really form a complete cycle of how a good meeting should flow. You articulate your thoughts to make a pitch, you collaborate with your team to improve it, you make sure you get your point across, and then you wrap up with a clear plan.
Wow, look at you connecting all the dots. That was incredibly smooth, Lily. See, you're way better at workplace communication than you give yourself credit for. Yesterday was just a fluke.
Thanks, Leo. That actually makes me feel a lot better. I think I just let my anxiety get the best of me yesterday. When you're the one speaking English as a second language in a room full of people, it's easy to feel like the odd one out. You start overthinking your accent, your grammar, your vocabulary, and suddenly you're completely paralyzed.
No, I get it. It's a very real emotional weight. But I think it helps to realize that even native English speakers get nervous and ramble. Half the time, the people who are talking the most in meetings aren't actually saying anything useful. They're just making noise.
Oh, that is shockingly true. I've sat through so many presentations where someone used all the fanciest buzzwords like synergy and paradigm shift. But at the end of it, I had absolutely no idea what they were talking about.
Exactly. They were articulate in a technical sense, but they completely failed to get their point across because they forgot that communication is about connection, not perfection.
Communication is about connection, not perfection. Wow, we need to print that on a t-shirt for our listeners because it's so true. If you focus on connecting with your colleagues, on genuinely trying to help the collaboration move forward, the words will come naturally.
They really will. And another thing that helps with meeting anxiety is preparation. Not preparing a perfect script to read, because that always sounds robotic, but just jotting down 3 bullet points before the meeting starts.
Oh, yes, like a little cheat sheet. I started doing that a few months ago, and it helps so much. If I have the keywords written down in front of me, even if my brain freezes, I can just look down at my notepad, see my bullet point, and get right back on track.
Exactly. It anchors you. It gives your eyes a safe place to look when you're feeling overwhelmed by all the faces staring at you on the screen or around the conference table.
Right. It keeps you from drifting out to sea in your own thoughts. You know, Leo, we've been talking a lot about how to speak up in meetings, but what about the other side of communication? What about when you disagree with an idea during a collaboration? That's always a super awkward situation to handle politely in English.
Oh, that is a massive topic. Disagreeing politely without sounding aggressive or rude is a real art form in the business world.
Oh, it really is. Because in your head, you might be thinking, wow, that is the worst idea I have ever heard in my entire life. But obviously, you can't say that out loud in a professional setting, especially not when you're trying to keep the vibe positive.
Right. If you say that, the collaboration is pretty much dead right then and there. People get defensive, their walls go up, and suddenly you aren't working together anymore, you're just arguing.
Exactly. So, how do you handle it? Like, what are some phrases or tricks you use when you want to steer the conversation in a different direction without hurting anyone's feelings?
Well, I think the golden rule of disagreeing in an office setting is to validate the other person's thought before you present your alternative. It's like a soft cushion for the disagreement. Instead of starting your sentence with but or no, you start with something appreciative.
Oh, like the classic, that's a great point. However,
Yes, exactly. Or even softer, like, I really like where you're going with that, but what if we looked at it from this angle? See what that does? It changes the dynamic completely. It doesn't feel like a rejection of their idea. It feels like you're building on top of it.
oh, that's so smart. It feels less like an attack and more like an invitation to think together. What about when someone makes a pitch that is just completely over budget or unrealistic? How do you call that out nicely?
That's a tough one. In those situations, I like to focus on the external facts rather than the person's opinion. So instead of saying, your plan won't work because it's too expensive, you can say, that's a really creative approach. My only concern is whether our current budget can support it.
Oh, my only concern is, wow, I'm writing that down. That phrase is an absolute lifesaver. It sounds so professional, so diplomatic. It shifts the blame from the person's idea to a logical constraint, like time or money.
Exactly. It makes it objective. You're both looking at the problem together rather than fighting each other.
You know, listening to us talk about all of this makes me realize how much work culture plays into this too. In some cultures, being incredibly direct is valued, but in an international English-speaking environment, there is a lot of softening language used. Phrases like, I was wondering if, or correct me if I'm wrong, but...
Yes, absolutely. We use qualifiers to lower the intensity of the statement. It might seem inefficient at first to add all those extra words, but in terms of keeping relationships smooth at work, it's incredibly powerful. It shows you respect the other person's status and feelings.
Right. It keeps the peace. But you know, we also have to remember the other side of this. What happens when you're the one being questioned? Like yesterday, when someone asked me for clarification because I didn't get my point across clearly, my first instinct was to get defensive and think, well, if you were listening better, you would understand.
It is so natural to feel that way. Our egos hate being questioned. But how did you actually handle it?
Well, thankfully, I took a deep breath before typing back. I realized that if they didn't understand, it was on me to explain it better, not on them to guess. So I just said, thanks for asking. Let me clarify that real quick. And I sent them a super short bulleted list. And they replied with, oh, awesome, love the idea.
See? That is a masterclass in professional communication right there. You didn't panic, you didn't get angry, you just re-articulated the pitch cleanly. That is a massive win, Lily.
Thanks, Leo. Honestly, talking through this with you today has been so therapeutic. It makes me realize that communication is just a skill like any other. You have good days, you have bad days, but as long as you keep trying to connect, you're on the right track.
Beautifully said, and that is exactly what we want everyone listening to take away from this episode. Don't let one bad meeting or a moment of brain freeze hold you back. Every time you speak up, you're practicing, and every time you practice, you get a little bit better.
Exactly. Well, look at that. We've managed to cover a whole lot of ground today, from finding your confidence to pitching ideas and navigating those tricky office disagreements. I think this is a wonderful place for us to wrap up our main conversation for the day.
I agree. Let's tie that neat little bow on today's episode. Thank you so much to everyone who tuned in, who listened with an open heart, and who is brave enough to keep practicing their English every single day. We see you, and we are so proud of your journey.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for spending your precious time with us. Don't forget to leave a comment below telling us what your biggest challenge is during office meetings. We love reading your stories. Take care of your English, take care of your confidence, and we will see you in the next episode.
Bye, everyone.
Bye!